My name is Duddy, Settle Builds and Stuff. Today's video is a Prismatic Hunter video that is going to buff the best weapons in the game and perks. The Yeartide Apex with Chaos Reshaped, and we're going to be featuring the Mint Retrograde with Bait and Switch. These weapons are absolutely insane, and we're going to get even more damage out of them with Spirit of the Foe Tracer. Bait and Switch and Chaos Reshaped are going to stack with Foe Tracer 25%, and we're going to be running Spirit of the Cytarachne for infinite woven mail, and I mean infinite woven mail. Spirit of the Foe Tracer will let us switch between these two weapons and get a 25% damage on both as a minimum, stacking with them bonuses, them perks on the weapons, so stay with me, I'll break it down. We'll start off with the Spirit of the Foe Tracer. It states, damaging a powerful cotton baton or a guardian with an ability grants you a temporary damage bonus for weapons matching that ability, 25%. But what we're going to do to start off with is just show you the standard Yeartide Apex shot with nothing else going on. So you're going to hit for 33, but with Yeartide Apex, and it can actually roll with a lot of good perks, but Chaos Reshaped gives you a maximum of 35% damage increase at a ×2. So on its own, with Fever and Chill, you're going to get Radiant 20% and 35% with Chaos Reshaped. Very easily, all you have to do is land a couple of precision hits and you'll see it's going to go up. I've got my Chaos Reshaped ×2 plus Radiant, so it shoots all the way up to 53. Now, that's already pretty strong. Let's max it out with the Spirit of the Foe Tracer. Again, damaging a powerful combatant or a guardian with an ability that matches the weapon, i.e. Swarm Grenade, it's solar. So all we have to do is tag our enemy with this solar grenade and we're going to get a 25% damage increase, which is going to be stacking with your Chaos Reshaped and your Radiant. Like I said, Yeartide Apex is absolutely fantastic. We're going to max it out. Look at the state of that, 67. Absolutely crazy. So we're going to go from 33 damage, a standard shot. And what's happening? We've got Radiant very easily. And we're going to have Chaos Reshaped ×2. And we're going to have Spirit of the Foe Tracer for that extra 25% damage for 15 seconds. And it shoots all the way up. Again, one more time, 33 to 67. That is an absolutely whopping 100% damage increase. It's actually 103% damage increase. Absolutely nuts. A standout weapon of the season. Another standout weapon of the season is Mint Retrograde. The Rocket Pulse. It hits like an absolute steam train. Anyway, add Bait and Switch on there. 30%, and I'm also going to add a Threaded Spike for my Foe Tracer. It's an ability that matches the weapon, strand. So again, standard shot, 262. And all I'm going to do in the next clip is just hit him with my melee, proc that 25% weapon damage, and you'll see that shoot up to 327. But of course, I'm not even proccing Bait and Switch. Bait and Switch is in place of Chaos Reshaped on the Yeartide. So 30%. You don't get Radiant with this, don't forget, because it is a strand weapon. Although you can get Radiant by shooting your Yeartide Apex. So I'm going to proc my Bait and Switch. So again, it's Bait and Switch, 30%, and my 25% from the Foe Tracer. Absolutely nuts. Add in something like Finality's Auger. This fits the bill perfectly because it's solar. You can use it on your Swarm Grenade, and this has also got Bait and Switch. If you don't have this, don't worry, there's plenty of other options. A bit later in the video, things like Dragon's Breath will be featuring, but just for a little thing with Foe Tracer that you can actually do is you can actually stack your solar damage for your Yeartide Apex, your Finality's Auger, and your Mint Retrograde at the same time. You'll see I've got my strand weapon boost from my Threaded Spike. I throw my solar grenade, and in a couple of seconds, you're going to see it switch over to that solar damage boost. So you can actually buff both weapons out very easily with your Swarm Grenade or your Threaded Spike. So if you want to get your max damage on your Mint Retrograde, throw your Threaded Spike. If you want to get your extra damage on your Yeartide or other solar weapons, throw your Swarm Grenade, and you're just maxing out all that damage on top of all the perks that I've talked about, like Chaos and Bait and Switch. Mega damage. The second part of the class item of the Spirit of the Cytarachne, gain woven mail whenever you use a grenade. 40% damage reduction on top of that mega damage we've already seen. So via your Swarm Grenade, by throwing that, you're going to proc your solar weapon damage and woven mail. You've also got a gunpowder gamble, which will proc your woven mail. And on top of that, we've got the hailfire spike prismatic grenade that will also proc your woven mail. So you've always got this going, this woven mail, from either of them 3 grenades, which is just absolutely fantastic. The other thing I just want to quickly mention as well for your prismatic energy, this whole setup is absolutely perfect because you've got a good source of light and darkness damage. Either way, you've got your strand mint retrograde, your strand melee, and then you've got your solar swarm grenade and your solar Yeartide apex. It all just fits perfectly. Your prismatic is pretty much always getting filled very nicely. Now, with regards to stats to the build, before I get into some more clips, it's obviously not absolutely perfect. I would probably prefer a little bit more melee. You don't really need much grenade. 92 is about enough for me, but if you can get 100, don't worry about your super too much. Now, with Spirit of the Foe Tracer, you will see just on this is obviously it's not taking Foe Tracer into account. It's saying your heavy weapon damage is going to be 7.8 and your special is 11.7. That's not true with Spirit of the Foe Tracer. You're going to get 25% extra damage on top of that, plus all the weapon perks. So it all just fits nicely. And I really enjoy Foe Tracer because you can switch around the damage. So, for example, you're throwing my Swarm Grenade. I know I did a little example to proc that. Proc your Chaos Reshaped and your Yeartide Apex going. Obviously, that's a solo weapon. You can also throw your Strand Melee to proc your Mint Retrograde. So, like I said, you can sort of switch in and out. And once you've got either of these weapons going with that, it's absolutely nuts. Again, most of these clips, well, all of the clips are like 420, 440 Grandmasters. So you can see there, it's just absolutely rinsing these trash ads anyway. And then if you need to do a bit of DPS, get your Dragon's Breath down or your Finality's Auger, hit them with your Strand, get all your bait and switch going, hit them with your Swarm Grenade, and you're just covered for every sort of damage source. On top of all them extra damage perks that we've talked about, it's just absolutely nuts. And I did a little test against an anti-barrier champion in a really hard sort of solo run, and it just trounces them really, really good. It's pretty much near enough mythic level, and you'll see there, I've got my strand weapon boost times 4. So even when I was like 50, 60 below, he just wrecks. The other good thing with Foe Tracer, it works with like obviously all different types of weapons, like Dragon's Breath, Lament is absolutely nuts. The new hand cannon with Surrounded, Red Death, it even buffs it out a little bit as well, obviously. The two I like is the Abyssal Edge with Surrounded and Foe Tracer at the same time. It's just nuts. And then Lord of Wolves is an obvious one. But if you don't have any of them weapons, there's loads of different things that work together. But my personal pick are Mint Retrograde with Yeartide Apex. If you don't have them lying about, you've got your Lord of Wolves and your Strand Sword with Surrounded, which is just really works just as good, to be honest. Just a different sort of playstyle. Get up a bit closer. Just wrecks, honestly. Foe Tracer is so good. And again, like Surrounded on swords with that 25% extra damage from Foe Tracer is really, really noticeable. I am really trying to sell Foe Tracer to you, so here's another way, another reason to use it. If you use your Silk Strike, this will also proc your Foe Tracer for your strand weapons, because you're coming out with your super, which is a strand ability. And the other good thing with Foe Tracer is Tether. Now, Tether will give you a 30% debuff for about 8 to 10 seconds, and it actually works with your solar and strand weapons if you hit them with an ability that matches. So you'll see in that clip I tethered and I threw my strand melee, and I've also got my strand weapon boost. So basically you've got everything else that you've seen going on, plus your tether. So it's just absolutely nuts. Foe Tracer is kind of a DPS cheat code, really, if you think about it, because you can throw your tether down and throw your strand or your swarm grenade to get the bonus damage for your solar or strand weapons. So you're going to get 30% damage for a few seconds, maybe like 7 or 8, 9 seconds, something like that, however long the tether lasts for. And again, I'm going to try and sell a Foe Tracer, Spirit of the Foe Tracer to you with the next little thing. Now, obviously with Spirit of the Foe Tracer, it does not stack with weapon surges, so some people see that as a negative, I see that as a big positive. So you don't need to run surges, and instead you can run, for example, something like Special Finisher. So you're going to get your 25% extra damage for free anyway, so you don't need Surges. Build into special finisher for your Mint Retrograde or any other special weapons that you're running. There's other options as well. You could build into like Grenade Kickstart and things like that, but I quite like running special finisher to keep my Mint Retrograde topped up, or any other special weapons that you may be running. And of course, we've got our seasonal artifact pack. There's loads of good stuff this season that's going to buff this build out, like Threaded Blast, Cauterized Darkness as well against champions and mages, Radiant Shrapnel, Shield Crust for extra melee damage. Here's all my fragments, aspects and abilities, and then here's all my mods. I will leave a dim link in the video description, but Fortracer, especially paired up with Cytarachne or Star Eater, which I've covered recently, is just godly. It's such a good class item combo, and if you don't have the class item combo, you can still just run the Fortracer helmet and build into Woven Mail with your fragments. That is the video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.